So I'd love to say hi to everyone watching today. My name is Medina Labarkan, and I am interviewing a wonderful lady today called Jane Murdo, who is a sex and relationship counsellor. She's also an author and she's a speaker, and she's doing a lot of things online at the moment on social media, which are illuminating the whole issue of relationships and the importance of relationships in terms of our own evolution as spiritual beings. And I think we forget in our society that our relationships and our sexuality is an integral part of our consciousness, our soul evolution, our happiness. There's so many things to do with that we miss in our culture, and it's just focused on a sort of a narrow aspect of what sexuality is, where actually sexuality is so important holistically to everything that we are. So I love to say a big welcome to Jane. It's really beautiful to have you here. You've done some amazing interviews with some amazing people, so I'm very honoured to have you here. And welcome. I'd love to hear you share a little bit about yourself and your journey of what you've got you to this point of being in this field.
Well, it's a privilege and an honour to be here, Medina. This is such an important topic. And it's funny, I was walking around, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is like all topics, it's like condensing the message to what you think is going to make the biggest difference into a shorter narrative. It's a big challenge, with all topics at the moment. But just a bit about me is, so my journey has been a spiritual sexual journey ever since I was really young. So when I was like 11, and I was one of these little girls that used to say, but why? Why? Always ask questions, but why? That doesn't make sense. So even when I was 11 years old, I went to all the different churches because I believed in God and I believed in Jesus, but there was something just didn't make sense for me as a little girl. And I used to ask questions, but Jesus wouldn't say that, or God, I don't think God would think that, or, I think I was a pain in the ass, actually.
No, it's a great thing. I think that's a wonderful thing.
So then it came to, my hormones started to kick in, and, when I was a teenager, it was like the late 60s into the 70s. So it was like a sexual revolution, and, it's like releasing these taboos, the pill was available, all this. But there was something in me, something deep in me that knew sex was very sacred. Despite the fact that I was a rebellious personality and I thought outside the square. So I was always sort of questioning to what degree I should explore my sexuality and how much I shouldn't explore my sexuality, because I was always aware, and I was a very sexual girl. I was always aware that I felt like I had this intuition that I knew that if I could really be tripped over by my sexuality emotionally, it'd do me in a way.
Yes.
I get out
off the path, lead you astray.
Yeah. Yes. And I'd get addicted, I could see I could get addicted to it, and I'd go, it would do my head in. I was like, even as a young girl, intuitively, I sort of knew that. But also, I think I was so scared of getting pregnant that there's no way known, I wanted to take the risk of getting pregnant before I got married.
Yeah.
So despite my, having a lot of boys interested in me, and my, I had a lot of boyfriends and everything, but, and I was sexual in kissing and doing other stuff, but I never really went the full way. It was like this knowing it was sacred, and I was worried about where that was going to go, which was interesting in retrospect. But then going forward, so then I go to, I was 21, I was traveling overseas. I met my husband, by the way, at 18. He ended up being my husband. So that was a problem too, because it's like, oh no, I've met this man I love, but I'm only 18, you know. I've got all these things I want to do. So anyway, I split up with him and I go overseas, like a lot of people did, and explored the world. And however, during that time, my brother was killed in a motorbike accident. And that was tragic. It was incredible, you know, it was tragic. The most tragic thing was I didn't get home for his funeral, because back in those days, you know, you just got a telegram or whatever. But the interesting thing was I got to see my intuitive psychic ability, because I was getting messages even before he died. And also I was given messages to go to the post office and get that telegram when I didn't need to do it. And I was having dreams about rocks falling down and death. And so, and also during that time, that period of time when I was overseas, I had my first mystical experiences. I can't explain why it happened. I wasn't on drugs, but I had this reverence and awe of a connection to everything was connected, and a connection to God or spirit or whatever you want to call it. And that took me into a really deep place. And also when my brother died, my father paid for me to go back after his funeral. I couldn't do anything else, but I was on the plane looking outside the window, and I remember the headphones were on, and I remember the song was, "If you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of me." I think it's America or Chicago song, right? Yeah. And I had tears streaming down my eyes, but it was like, I find this amazing now in my older age that I went to this place, but I once again, I had this mystical experience that life wasn't just about life and death, and it was far bigger, most incredible cloud formations. And I said to myself, I asked the existential questions were, why were I here? Why am I here? What's my purpose in life? Why did my brother die? Who am I really?
Wow, great.
What's the nature of life? At 21, if you know, I think about that now, that's pretty big. There's some people die never asking those questions.
That's true. It sounds like you've always had a very strong spiritual foundation. And this has always just sort of been the unfolding layers of that. And then, you know, when you have such a significant experience as the passing of your brother, that just really magnifies it, doesn't it? It really puts it into overdrive, accelerates your level of growth, I think.
And I can see, you know, because I've done so much work on myself, like a lot of us have. It's a never-ending story, as you know. For me to do the work I do, I have to constantly peel the layers back and look at my shadow, and, you know, where I'm out of balance and what I need to unravel. Yes. But I can see that the interesting thing is I created a contract with my brother. This is weird. I created a contract with my brother that he was going to, it was a bit like the Jesus, you know, died on the cross to save us.
Yes, yes.
Right? It was, you know, it was only when I'm older I've realised I created a contract with my brother that his death wasn't going to be in vain.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
And that's why I do what I do, and I've made a difference to thousands of people's lives. But I was so driven, like it was like my soul was so driven to answer those questions, and I did answer those questions.
So you wouldn't ask those questions unless that had actually happened. So that's your brother giving you that gift.
Yes, and the higher purpose. And then I went on and it was my sexuality, this questioning of, and then I go on to get married, and then I'm in a marriage where I have different sexual drives and the whole, and then you're attracted to other people while you're married, and then it's like I can't have an affair and I don't want to have an affair, but it's this whole it's so fascinating.
It's a minefield.
That's why I'm thinking, oh my God, how much, this is bigger than Ben Hur, this topic. Where do I start? It's like, however, what happened with me in my marriage was I hadn't answered those questions.
Yes. And what age were you married there, Jane? So
I was 23 when I got married, so it's really,
mid-18. Yep.
And I've got 2 sons.
Yeah.
So my partner was my only sexual partner at that time, right?
Yes.
Even though I'd had other boyfriends and played a bit, but really, so, and that was really special, and he was the only person he'd had with me. So there was nobody else in bed with us.
Yes, very clear. The energy would be very clear.
Yeah, the energy field was really clear. Yeah. So that was really special, but in the background of that was this wondering of what I haven't experienced and what life's about, and answering those questions. So unfortunately, I had a really good husband, but my soul pushed me. It sounds like a cop-out, but it's like as if, I had this little tap on my shoulder. It's like, you haven't answered the questions.
Yes. Yes.
So so that was when I left my marriage to explore life, to unravel the deeper questions, meet different people, learn more, because I had this feeling, and it could be very wrong, that I couldn't have done that within my marriage, because I had grown a lot spiritually, but my husband thought it was all crazy stuff. So anyway, that's my journey. And from there, leaving my marriage, I then go out, and I had an amicable divorce, and we had a really amicable divorce, and we came from the higher good of the children and all that. And I went out. I'm going out with these single people, and they're all bitching and moaning about their exes, and I'm thinking, it's not that hard. Divorce isn't that hard. It's the people are the problem, and there's all this animosity and everything in the space. So that was where I'm thinking, what's the matter with these people? It's like this righteous woman. But that was the start of my journey, where I retrained myself even though I trained in psychology and sociology to a certain degree at uni. And I'd been on the spiritual journey, which I can't go into, it'll take me too long, but I also had a big breakdown when I was about 28 after the birth of my child, which is a great spiritual opening as well into myself.
Yes, it's like a whole restructuring from the ground up, isn't it, when you have that experience? And it's very common, nervous breakdowns. 1 in 3 people apparently have them.
Yes, and it's like a dark night of the soul. And I had a lot of things going on in the outside world at that time that most people would have said that's why it happened.
Yeah.
However, for me, what I've always done is I go in, so I didn't even know about the law of attraction back then. That wasn't but it was like, okay, so all those things were happening in the outside world, big stresses that most people would crash under. But even then I went into, so what is it about me that I've chosen to crash?
Right.
What do I need to learn about this? What do I need to learn about myself? I shouldn't have crashed. I had this, I shouldn't have,
Yes.
but it was, and I only went on medication for a short, really like small amount of medication because I knew it was a Band-Aid even then. So there's something in me, I don't want to beat my own drum, it sounds like, but it's like there's something in me that's always known, you know, like I'm responsible for my reality.
Right. You're the co-creator.
I'm the co-creator. I'm creating everything.
Yes, yes. You sound like very much an old soul who's had a lot of the, you've been able to tap into the universal wisdom from a very early age, and it's always been there within you that you've been able to access it, which is a wonderful thing to be able to have, you know, as you go through your life.
Yeah. Yes. So just quickly, I just finish off. So what that led me to was writing books. I remember I went to a psychic just as I was about to leave my marriage, and she said, "You're going to end up writing books." I thought she's crazy. I thought she was crazy. I said to her, "No, that won't happen. I didn't like English that much, and no. I walked out and I thought she was crazy. And sure enough, about a year later, I had this urge to write a book about divorce. And then, sorry, and so I ended up writing, I've written 5 books, but it's like, and then it was like, it was all about sexuality and relationships, because then leaving my marriage, I got to experience, I thought, okay, I'm going to explore what it's like to be with a few different men, do the opposite to what I did. And I hated it. I thought, oh, no, I don't like, no, this doesn't work for me. I was right, you know, like this doesn't work for me. I feel all over the place. It doesn't work.
Well, it's interesting that as a person who's incarnated on this planet, you can imagine something or visualize something, but you often don't really know until you go through that experience. And I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to, as long as it doesn't harm or hurt anyone else, we're here to actually physically experience things, not just visualize them in our minds.
Yes. So this has all led me to having my practice, you know, doing what I do. And like my most of what I do now is I work with couples to keep them together, and it's the holistic, it's everything about their relationship. I have a really good sex rate. That's a faux pas, isn't it? I have a really good success rate, because I do believe, you know, that it's very easy to just, you know, like say it's not working, let's get out of here. But people repeat the same patterns. And
yeah, that's so true. They'll just go to someone else and do the same thing if they haven't worked on the foundational issues that were there in the first place. Yes.
So the number one thing is to work through that, and then do what you can to transform that, and to see how you are showing up in that relationship. But if you want to split up after that,
yes,
that's you know, that's the higher position to take, rather than to go, oh, this is okay. Occasionally it's very cut and dry, you know, because there might be abuse or something going on. But in most instances, it takes 2 to tango, and it's the unconscious childhood patterns that are playing out, and people are blaming their partner.
Yes.
So anyway, so that's how I've got to, sorry, it's a bit long, how I've got to
No, that's fascinating. And it's lovely to be able to have you share with such candor your journey, because I think that helps people when you're really open and honest and transparent with it, you know, that people can also relate to that, and they can learn from that as well. So thank you. I appreciate that, you know, that level of candor that you're able to share with. So what I really love to also elaborate on is the area of how porn is really affecting a lot of young people today, and how it's really impacting on their ability to have relationships with others. And you know, we see that with the deep state, the cabal, the nefarious influences that are trying to control us, that are out there, it's easy to see how that influence can impact young people and get them off track and damage them, so that they can't be empowered beings in the world that make a difference. So perhaps if we can speak on that for a minute, Jane, that would be really important for, I think, to share with people.
Well, there's two sections to this. Is the nefarious ways that the deep state are disempowering us sexually and in our relationships, for men and for women.
Yes.
But particularly for guys.
Mm.
More particularly for guys, because they want the demise of masculinity.
Yes, yes. Sacred masculinity.
Yes, sacred masculinity. Yeah. And it's like, because they've got, you know, how I see it is they don't want men's power and purpose to be awakened, because it's a threat to them. So
right.
if you keep men in pornography and drugs, keep them addicted to, because guys psychologically, Jordan Peterson talks about this too, is their nature is more addictive than women.
Yes. Yes, women are sort of more holistically, you know, they say that women can do many things at once, whereas men have that ability to really focus directly more on one thing. But that can also be a negative in the sense that they can become addicted in that sort of narrow direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the it's, you know, and the bigger agenda, I feel, is the depopulation agenda. And through that is like dividing men and women and disconnecting men and women, decreasing men's testosterone, you know, with food, with more estrogen in the food, and there's more estrogen in the water, and so and also porn, what it does is, you know, and it's online betting too, with sports and video games and everything.
Yes.
You know, these are all nefarious things to it's called the demise of guys. And the younger men growing up with all this, like I see, like it's really problematic. I'm seeing more and more young people because of what's going on. And, you know, I even had a couple there, like 26. I'll give you an example. They're both watching porn and not having sex with each other, watching porn separately.
Yeah, that's very sad, because it stimulates those chemicals in the brain, and then they get addicted to that, and then it's like a cycle that they can't get out of, and they lose the ability to interrelate with one another.
So what it does, there's a really great video that people can watch on YouTube called the Great Porn Experiment by Gary Wilson, and he explains the science, I guess.
Yeah.
So what happens is, our primitive brain, like guys their brain is not designed to see naked women a lot.
Right.
And stimulated sexually all the time.
Yes.
So you think back thousands of years ago, how often would they have seen a naked woman, or, you know, sexually been in that position? But now, every minute of the day, guys can, you know, or anyone can, you know, get on, and you can see somebody having sex, or doing anything.
Yeah.
So the brain is not designed for that amount of stimulation.
Yeah.
So what happens is the dopamine cycle, it's because it's based on dopamine, which is the hormone of all addictions.
That's what in chocolate, chocolate stimulates dopamine. That's why we love chocolate. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Cocaine, anything is dopamine. So porn is based on novelty and dopamine, and they want guys to get addicted to it. And it's the most addictive thing on the internet. And what it does, it disrupts the circuitry of the brain, of the dopamine cycle of the brain. Right. And guys do not realize this.
So it actually builds neural pathways that are sort of set, aren't they? That are very hard to reconfigure as people get older, because they become set in your sort of neural network. Yeah. And
it's also a lot of boys, because it's ironic, we live in this sexual, inverted commas, culture. We don't talk about sex. No. There is no sex education, or, like sex is a high form of communication. It's not just about intercourse. It has psychological, emotional, spiritual, physical, like it's complex. There's many mysteries and magic around it. It's very sacred. It's our creative force. It's our, it's our sexual energy. It's like there is no knowledge around all this.
It's the highest route to, no pun intended, to spirituality, to connecting with your own divine connection, to the source energy. When you truly connect with someone in that way, it's the greatest way to connect to the divine. And I think that's one of the major reasons why it's so much disinformation on the topic, because the controllers, the people that control us, don't want us to be empowered in that way, where we're truly able to find this quick way to get to our source connection. And I remember looking at a whole lot of information on this over the years to do with the Egyptians, and how in the sacred king's chamber they'd come together, and the kings and queens would make love in that chamber, and then the energy of that would go out through the pyramids to the cosmos, and it connects with the stars, and it would help the cosmos to all function beautifully, and to expand, and to help the stars to shine, and everything like that. So it's very cosmically connected when you truly connect with someone on that level. And I think that all that sort of wonderful history to do with that, and the information on that is very beautiful for people to be able to tap into.
Yes, and it's an incredibly healing energy. I'd like to go through this, which this little document.
Yes, beautiful.
So I'd like to explain it, just how that works in the way how I've put it together. This is my take, right?
Yep.
So you're going to put that up later, maybe, for them somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, so if we look at it as a triangle, and we've got the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, this is around our sexuality, and our sexual energy comes up from the root chakra. Okay, there might be a construct, but it's like, just try on. It comes up from our groin, goes up, and it goes around. It goes up through our crown chakra, it goes up, it goes around. That's the nature
of the Kundalini energy.
Yes, the Shakti, the Kundalini Shakti, right? And it goes up and around. And this energy can be used in a positive way, or it can be used in a negative way. It's like And it's also the energy of the life force energy of the universe, as you talked about. So it's like, it's so sacred, it's so powerful. So if we go to what's happening now in the nefarious ways of the game that we've been told, you know, that people are being indoctrinated into more and more. And even, you know, I look back to, you know, what I was thinking, even when I left my marriage and what was going on when I was married. So let me read this out, this quote first, though. Until you're willing to be confused about what you already know, you cannot know anything bigger, better, or more useful. And that's Milton Erickson, which is, and I talking about sexuality now, we need to explore our beliefs and thoughts. It's like, why do I do what I do? Why do I think what I think around sexuality? So until we can explore and challenge those beliefs and how they're playing out in the world, we can't raise our consciousness, our sexual consciousness, and make a difference in the world.
Well, I think that's actually what's happening energetically with everything at the minute, because we're going through this incredible earth transition where we're being asked to reevaluate everything that we used to believe in, because we're seeing now all the hidden stuff coming to the surface, a lot of the nefarious stuff, which makes us realize that what we thought, the world that we thought we lived in, we actually didn't live in. And so on the bigger scale, we're doing that anyway. And then I think that that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing right now, is to be able to create new belief systems that are much more in alignment with truth and with what's really happening, as opposed to being given these false narratives that we've had for hundreds of years that have been in place to serve an agenda so that we can serve others that have been hidden. Yeah.
100%, and that they disempower us. There's another one here, quote here, I wrote it down for you. I love it. You'll love this. If you want to awaken humanity, then awaken all of yourself. If you want to eliminate the suffering in the world, so you think about sexual abuse, you know, all the sexual suffering and relationship suffering, then eliminate all that is dark and negative in yourself. Truly, the greatest gift you have to give is your own transformation. That's from Lao Tzu, from the founder of Taoism, right?
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic spiritual philosopher person. Amazing. And this is the thing that we're finding too at the moment, that to go inward is the answer, because there's so much information on every topic from every angle that clashes, that doesn't synchronize. So we're being forced to go within to find the answers and to discern what is our own truth, as opposed to listening to all these voices that all have different opinions and different beliefs.
Yes, yes. So we're going to go back to this triangle.
Yeah.
So if we go to the physical, so the physical is working from those lower chakras, and a lot of people sexuality and porn, a lot of things, a lot of people are working from their lower chakras around their sexuality.
Yes.
And they're shutting their heart down, and shutting, you know, their intuition and crown down and operating from here. So let's look at some of the things that are going on in this physical domain, which is us in our flesh and blood.
Yep. Okay.
No, but yeah, we're just flesh and blood. We're just physical. There's no spiritual realm.
So for clarity, Jane, can I just check in on that? So is that like when people are just functioning from that sort of survival base? It's a very physical survival base. It's not an advanced, evolved love base from the heart center, but just that sort of an impulse going with those inner innate impulses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being unconscious and It's more the animal instinct, the survival instinct,
Yes.
and
the reptilian brain even.
yes, it's going from that
Yes.
reptilian brain.
Yes.
So let's have a look. So that's based on instant gratification, which is very much fed in our society now. Take what you can, you know, buy what you want, do what you want. Life's short. Have fun. Don't worry about tomorrow. We've really been fed that narrative.
Definitely.
And it has consequences. It really does have consequences. It's all about me, my pleasure.
Yeah.
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 So it's not about others. It's like I want to do
serving humanity or the bigger picture. It's just on you. Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah.
And then in that space we'll see hookups and multiple partners, and I'm not making that right or wrong. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying what's in that space.
Sure.
And then you've got sex addiction. You'll have sex addiction.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, it's trying to fill a void, you know, and often I call it fucking pain away. Sex is often used to fuck pain away, unfortunately.
Isn't the core of addiction often a feeling, it's either an absence of love, not feeling loved, or not being able to love at the core?
Yes, and I believe it's actually a disconnection from God or cosmic consciousness.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and there's another great quote which relates to addictions to me. You have to love yourself because no amount of love from others is sufficient to fill the yearning that your soul requires of you.
And if you're not tapped into a divine or a higher source, it's a very finite, limited amount of love that you can regenerate within your own field. But when you're connected to something higher, it's like an infinite, eternal source of connection and love.
Correct. It's your primary relationship.
Yes.
So it's this void. It's this void it's driven by dopamine, sex addiction. You know, trying to fill this void that. Thinking that somebody else can fill it, but it's often fucking pain away too. A lot of these things are at this level because the healing hasn't occurred or the awakening. Then you've got porn and this thing about you know, the narrative is there's nothing wrong with porn, you know, it's great to masturbate and you know, it's healthy to masturbate but occasionally that's okay. But the problem is, as we talked about, we've got a society, we've got 90% of men, supposedly, it's hard to know what statistics are, watching porn. And how many are addicted? It's very hard to know because statistics you can never know for sure.
And I guess the other thing with that, Jane, is that they're looking outside themselves, externally, to get that feeling. And anytime you go outside yourself to get stimulated, there's a problem with that, because it should come from within yourself, that internal connection when we go out in the world and do things. When we're stimulated by something externally, it can often be something nefarious, or it can take control of your energy as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. And that's yes. And I've never met a guy, I mean, I have lots of guys that come to me that have got sex addiction, porn addiction. But what goes with that is a lot of shame and guilt.
Definitely.
So it's all these that are running on the physical level, there's an impact of that, and it's a contracting of the spirit and of the self, even though we might get it's like eating chocolate or fish and chips, you know, eat fish and chips and you think, but afterwards you think, that doesn't feel very good, you know.
Unconsciously, so then they're relating shame and guilt to the act of sex. and to having relationships with others. There's a sort of an unconscious shame and guilt there, connecting with all this other stuff.
Yes, and what's coming out more and more is there's so many young guys with erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Also, delayed ejaculation can be a precursor. And because the wiring of the brain has been messed up, so there's a whole new movement online called the NoFab movement.
Fab is that FAB?
Yeah, the NoFab movement.
Okay.
Guys can access that on Reddit, but it's like it's a whole group of men that are empowering themselves sexually to not masturbate a lot and to not watch porn, and to regain their power as men, because the Taoists knew that, the ancients knew, they knew that a man loses his power the more he ejaculates. And see, in our modern world, the narrative is, it doesn't matter how much a guy ejaculates, it feels good, right?
Also, there's another narrative that if men ejaculate daily, it keeps them healthier, down like their prostate and everything, keeps them healthier downstairs.
Yes, that has been proved, yes.
That has been proved to be inaccurate. Yes.
They say that, but they haven't got, as far as I'm aware, and I've looked more recently, they haven't got the research to really prove that.
So that may be just a nefarious agenda for men to lose their empowerment through being told that. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, and men are more likely to have social anxiety being with women. Their whole sense of self gets lost with porn.
Yes.
And their sex education, like, it doesn't teach them how to make love, and it's been proven that the more sex as porn guys tend to watch, they'll tend to go to more what's the word when it's more aggressive porn, it's more violent porn.
Yes. And of course, in the porn industry, a lot of the women in that have been abused. So there's the energy of that coming from what they're watching as well, that they've come from backgrounds where they've gone into that because that's what they're familiar with, and it is an abusive energy in it.
Yes, and a friend of mine who's a psychic, she and Stuart Wilde talked about this in his books, a book I read about his years ago, but that dark matter, dark entities hang around porn, like you're watching porn. Like she used to say, she could tell in women's aura if they were sexually promiscuous or super active because there were holes in their aura. And also she could tell when guys were watching a lot of porn because there was all this stuff around them. And so
and similar to when they have multiple partners, because you're actually, it's like someone giving you a big baggage of their stuff when you have sex, and then you're carrying a big baggage of stuff because you're carrying some of their stuff. And then you have sex with someone else and then they give you another bag. And you've got all these bags of stuff because they've energetically given you some of their, karma or whatever they're working with. And then if you're having multiple partners, you become very scattered and fragmented in your energy because you've got all this other stuff of other people's stuff. So, there's so many layers to this, aren't there, Jane?
Oh, I know. It's just such it's a fascinating topic. It's absolutely fascinating.